Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good whatever time of day it may be for you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Layback Gamer, and we are bringing forth one of the two Rimworld series that I'm going to have going on for the channel. As I said in the New Year's update video, I was going to be doing two. It was supposed to be originally it was supposed to be Storyteller Roulette, the one that's still currently being having videos uploaded for, and well, at least at the time. I think I got another week or two left of content for that, and it was supposed to be this series. However, unfortunately, thanks to Storyteller Roulette kind of bugging out a little bit, I'm now having to. I got to create a second series, so this one's still going on, and I'm going to be having a second one running alongside it. The second one's going to be more of a casual playthrough where, yeah, I've taken out quite a few mods. It's still going to kind of fit more or less a theme along the lines of hospitality and that sort of stuff. But the main thing, ticket for this one is it's going to be featuring, well, why don't we just hop into the scenario that I've got created for it? So the idea is, we are outcasts of the void, and it's going to be following a bit of a story. So that would mean that some characters are going to have some sort of immortality to them as they go through. For instance, the main character, he's sort of telling a story of his time on this world. So obviously he's going to be surviving till the very end. And there are a couple of other characters that are going to be, but some of them are just going to exist around just for the sake of just essentially for the sake of simply it fits the story narrative that I have in mind. So we start out as outcasts of the void. We barely made it out of that void testing lab, and while I'm happy to be alive, I feel sick to my core for not being able to get everybody out during the escape. Worse still, almost everybody out there is trying to recapture us thanks to the bounty on our heads. While I'm grateful to be out, I keep thinking about our little group. Cyborg, the former researcher of the Void, who still wishes to continue with their experiments on anyone who seeks to harm us. Then there's Beast, once a legendary ranger, now reducing to wanting nothing more than to kill the Void. And finally, there's AU 8593667, an android who seeks to enslave his own kind. I should be against this, yet despite everything, I still find myself going along with them. Would the Elders support this crusade against the Void? Would the Empire see us going through with this? I guess it doesn't matter. Perhaps I can change their minds in time. For now, the Void has to be taken out to save this world. So, yeah, that's sort of the plan. And as you can see, we start at, well, this shouldn't say start with, this should say start near, because I put on the map, hey, we're going to be starting near these. But anyways, as you can see, we have incidents created. Now, this one here will be kind of explained when we get, I guess these two here will kind of be explained as we get in, due to a little bit of dialogue that I've written. But for the Void here, I don't know what this does. I put it in here, and I'm going to keep it in here regardless of what ends up happening. But either I'm hoping that this triggers a Void attack against our base, or it might just trigger a Void conquest. And that's set to happen once a year. So every 60 days, this event's going to trigger, which means for every year we're spending in this world, it's only going to be getting harder and harder and harder to take out the Void. And depending on what map we end up choosing, who knows? Who knows what we're going to end up seeing, or how many guys we're going to see from the Void, how many settlements we get. So, to start off with the storyteller here, we're going to start with Blood and Dust on Phoebe Chillax, but we will eventually be migrating into some of the other ones here as it sees fit. So, for instance, when I plan on going out to do raids, it's going to be under Freya to get the, we're bloodthirsty. We're ready to go out. We're ready to go raid. We want to do this. And in times of, say, like a dire holdout, like like massive attacks, it's going to be switched over to Igor to promote them attacking us a lot. Maybe in a time of uncertainty, it's going to be Randy Random. For instance, we're going to switch it to Randy Random. And when we're probably on a little more of a darker path, it's going to be Empress Evil. We're going to be switching it up as the story sees fit, and when that point will come kind of depends on where we're at the time. But for now, we're going to be on Phoebe Chillax just because it's going to be a bit more of a relaxing experience. Of course, reload any time because, as I stated, some of our characters are going to have a little bit of immortality. So in terms of factions and how much is on the map, we're going to be playing at 30%. The seed's going to be Outcasts, and I have it set up to be somewhat loose. They're going to be pretty loose, but still somewhat contained in on itself. And excuse me. There's going to be, well, I set the number to 50. I didn't add this up so I could specifically tailor it, but essentially in this series there's going to be no civil or friendly folks. None of those, with the exception of the Empire. The Empire obviously is kind of more of a neutral state, and there might be a couple other factions down the list that may also random roll the same treatment, but essentially for every if there's a rough version of a faction, it has one colony on the map, and that's just so that we can maybe get some allies further down the road. Like, we're in a trade agreement, but they don't 100% agree with us, so they still may eventually turn hostile and go against us. After all, we are technically escapees or outcasts from the void. And in terms of if it's a savage or a pirate, it ends up having two. There are some exceptions out there. So the Empire has an exception to it. Orion's Core, that has a chance to go be either friendly or foe. I'm not sure which it'll be. We have androids as set to 1 because, as stated, our android unit, or AU for short, is going to be trying to enslave them, or wants to enslave them. So we do need a couple of I did need a friendly android unit there, and there's one more a little bit further down. You can see Rough is 1, Savage is 2. Insectoids I promoted up to 4 because we're having so low, and I would like some extra populated insects on the map, although I don't know if that'll do that. I know the fact Elders always spawns with 2, or always spawns at hostile, but at a -10, so you can raise their opinion of you. And the Podmorpher, I don't remember that one, which one that started with. It could either be friend or I think it starts off as neutral, which that's okay. Mechanoid, that's hostile. Mechadroid, that's the other friendly one, so that's another one that AU is going to attempt to enslave. So we're eventually going to be going to war with them. We have... Oh, I did forget to set this to 2. Oh, no, sorry. You're only supposed to be a 1. The Horrors is supposed to be a 2. And then the Psionic... I don't actually remember if these guys are hostile or not. I don't know. Don't remember. Anyways, we'll go ahead and generate the map. See what we get. Alright, so here's what we ended up getting. Now, I do also have Rim Cities enabled, as you can obviously see. However, most of these are going to be... Okay, good. I thought there may have been a mix there. Most of these are going to end up being hostile. Or, sorry, they're actually supposed to be citadels. for the most part. So we have a lot of citadels on the map, lots of abandoned cities on the map, and there's only a few functional cities that obviously are in the hands of the AI. And then, of course, you have normal settlements everywhere else. And I'm actually quite happy with the results of this. As we can check here, we have one friend within the android. We have, okay, so the pawn morpher did become friends with us. Yep, that one's scripted. For some reason, there's two of these pawn morpher clans. They shouldn't be I shouldn't be two of them. Apparently there's all... Oh, sorry, my bad. The game did have to fill out some extra spots since I put it in as 80, so... Yeah, there's going to be a couple of extras out there. Okay, two hostile of those. I hope there's a pawn morpher that's hostile. I could check here, but I'm going to scroll down. Orion Corp happened to roll neutral this time, but there are times that they are hostile. Blue Moon's Corp also rolled hostile. Psionic rolled hostile. Two Psionics at hostile. So unfortunately, there's no pawn morpher at hostile. So we'll have to. If I do happen to see one by our base, I don't know, commit war crimes on them and turn one of their factions hostile. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I'm okay with this. With the exception of obviously two factions got added in that were not supposed to be here and not supposed to be friendly towards me. This did turn out exactly the way I was hoping for. So now we got to find a good place to start. So these guys are Empire, so it would be very easy to quickly take these places out from under their feet. We're also close to, if we pick here, we'd also be close to Elders as well as another savage keep for medieval. Let's see here. Abandoned City, Blue Crag. There'd be plenty of action up there. We would have to take a long detour around or drop pod our way to there. But I'm thinking we are going to pick a settlement in around here. Unfortunately, that does put us far away from the Empire. Both them. Well, it actually puts us far away from this Empire, but this one's still within relative distance. The Void is close to us, but fortunately, luck was on our side this time, as there's only one Void There's only one Void on the map, that's a good thing. It's good. I don't want there to be any more. Otherwise, they might spiral out of control. Remember that event that happens once a year for the Void, if it is going to be them just conquering another city for themselves, is slated to happen once a year. It could also happen at random any point throughout the year. So within 1 year, they could have 2 or 3 bases under their control. So yeah, it can be very, very deadly if they're allowed to get out of control. That's assuming that they don't actually own any of these cities. I don't think they do. We have the Dark Plague there. Dark Plague. Not sure what the... never mind. But anyways, let's pick our settlements. So I would ideally like to start in a mountainous terrain. I like that. Okay. Yep, I'll take that. And now allow me to go fetch our characters that we're going to be playing with. Alright, so here's our character roster that we're going to be working with. Now, I already hinted at their names, so before we go through them, here's the equipment that we will be starting with. So obviously this is going to end up starting with us. And that's not to say we could possibly get some extra stuff available on the map as well. But we're starting with 300 rounds, 2 action. Oh, I almost forgot the food. Jeez, that was bad of me. Here I was about to start without some food, and that wouldn't have made any sense for this playthrough. Let's go with 100. There's 4 of us here, so we'll be through it within 2 months. And then for medical, we're just gonna get a little bit of medical, so maybe 3 per person, so that's 3, and then normal medicine down here. and put that at 9. Alright, so I did forget to include that on accident, but for the most part, we have 2 melee weapons, 2 ranged, a few bullets for, or not a few, but a bunch of enough bullets to be able to have these 2 last, and obviously standard clothes on all of them, so just t-shirts or some sort of shirt and pants. So, I suppose we'll introduce Alarak last, but we have AU 8593667, or we're just gonna call AU for short. And we're the faction of the Outcasts, so that's what our first name is. And he is known as the Conqueror because that's his goal. He's trying to conquer, to enslave, to dominate other androids out there for whatever reason. Who knows? Who knows? But he loves his melee, obviously, because he's got a hit thing. He likes to hit things, to be sort of a slaver. He's very intellectual, he's good at social, so he could recruit, and he does have a soft spot for animals. To a degree. Android animals, less so, but for a lot of animals, he has a soft spot for them. He is a hacker prodigy, and this sort of makes sense along the lines of he's trying to... Obviously, as a child, he tried to exploit computers, and he uses some of that knowledge to try and hack into other machines. I had considered putting What the Hack on for this, and I still might do it. May add that in as well as... Well, actually, no, that would be the only other mod that I would add into this. And he is a war master. He grew up to be a war master. So, he... I don't like the text of that. Instead of him, leading from behind, he was the guy who was always on the front. He was going out there, he was doing his job, and one day he happened to have been going up against the Void, and he lost his entire party. And so, he had no choice but to, essentially go back with them, and he would eventually be freed by Alarak. Then we have Beast, who is... I didn't give this guy any traits just because he has some pretty good stats here, and I might actually buff couple of these up by a little bit. Beast here is, well, that's his exact name. He's supposed to be a more beastly, very jock-like character, but has a bit of a soft spot. So, he was a colonist, launched into space as part of an interstellar colonization program, and he grew up on that planet to be an Alpha Ranger. So, he went to being from one of the most renowned rangers out there, got captured by the Void on a scouting mission, and was freed by Alarak. As you can see here, he's a bit of a dunce, so he's not that smart. He is, however, a very careful shooter, despite being a dunce. You'd think he'd be a little trigger happy, but no. Shooting is one of the very few things that he's very intelligent with. Anything else, and the other thing is cooking. He's a gastronomer, or gastronomist. He really loves his cooking. He may be a bit of a dunce, but he's a soft-hearted dunce. Soft-hearted, big dunce. The kind of guy who loves his food. He's also a rebel. So we can't really force him to do any tasks. So that's kind of the negatives to balance out the positives and the good. Again, he has no traits, although actually... Now that I think about it, he would be a psychopath. We'll quickly toss that on to him. So he would be a crazed psychopath. Now the question is, I don't think he wouldn't be a cannibal. That wouldn't make sense. I thought about it for a while, but I don't think he'd be a cannibal. Next we have Cyborg, who is a cybernetics researcher and then ended up going into an energy researcher role. So big into science, lots of she's super smart. Unfortunately, she isn't really good with anything else. A little too intelligent for her own good sometimes. She's industrious. She's eccentric. She's a transhumanist. Obviously, she likes cybernetics. She's also a perfectionist. So she's striving to create the perfect life form, as well the Void was trying to do. She used to be a researcher for the Void, but then kind of got fed up with their experiments because they had well, in her opinion, they were they were wasting time on failures when they could in fact be trying to make perfect specimens. She mainly loves to work with robotics, that sort of stuff, so that makes her with actually, is there do we have a trait that allows us to like I looked for this a while ago. I didn't find it. I thought there was a trait here that would allow her to that made her like mechs a bit more. She's not a mech, but that she really loves working with androids. I don't think there is. I don't think there is. No, it wouldn't be that. No. Uh, Technophobe? No, not technophobe. Oh, okay. This one would actually be pretty good for technophobe would actually be really good for you. You really like killing mechs. Oh, maybe not. Never mind. And you just end up breaking a bunch of stuff. Alright, never mind on that one. So, if I could, I'd make her really, really like androids. But, yeah. I can't, unfortunately. But, she's supposed to be super smart. And she decided one day she had enough of the void. And she helped stage essentially a riot at the laboratory. And who led that riot? None other than Alarak. And this is a big reason why all three of these guys, despite having... We'll see that with the little caption that's going to pop up at the beginning. But despite Alarak being probably the only one here who, while he does want to take some revenge on the Void, he doesn't want to go to the lengths that that these guys are willing to go. Cyborg with her cybernet, her wanting to make the perfect life form to essentially be able to crush the Void. AU for his want to enslave all androids out there and have them bend under his will, or cyborgs if they were cybernetically enhanced humans. And Beast's just absolute lust to kill the Void in as many ways as he can. He, despite all him having difference with all of them, he rescued each of them from the facility. And for that, they're sort of a forever grateful to Alarak, in more ways than they'll ever realize. But he's one of the few characters who's a little more on the balanced side. Although I do need to get rid of some of these traits that I forgot to get rid of a while ago. I guess maybe a little bit on social. Little minor there. Maybe take away on the melee side there. So he started out as a tribe child. So on a distant planet, and this might also come into play later, Alarak grew up on a tribe, and as an adult he tried to take the tribe's a role of a healer, and he was also slated to become the tribe's shaman. So to be both a shaman and a healer was something unheard of for his tribe. It was once a long time sort of deal. And in his tribe, the shaman was part of the leading body of three. The other two would be more of the warlord, as well and then the third one would be I'm not sure what the third role would be. More of the handling the affairs that happen inside the village when it comes concerned to living or way of life. Alarak would be the other half of that and essentially keeping people alive, as well as ensuring that everybody got their fair portions of food, and that medicine was distributed. You get the idea. He was supposed to also be a shaman in addition to the tribe healer, which hadn't happened for a very long time, so it was a very tremendous honor. However, the Void, seeing his potential, stole him away to become one of their experiments at the laboratory, and I believe he was actually slated to be one of the more higher end research. So he's very iron-willed, he's industrious, he's super immune because obviously he's a healer, and he's very optimistic. He believes that he will weather this storm no matter what happens. Even if he disagrees with everybody here, this is all the family he has left at the moment. And for now, all these guys are united with a common purpose of defeating the Void. So, now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and start. Yes, we're ready. Let's jump into a new world and tell this story. Alright, and here we are. This seems as good a spot as ever. We've all agreed on eliminating the Void before they get worse. But the way... It should be the... I screwed up the text there. But the way they have agreed to do it... But they have agreed... Oh, no, I didn't. But they have agreed to do it in their own twisted ways. I'll have no part of this, but I cannot bring myself to leaving. I'll help in other ways. It seems that trade ships tend to pass by from time to time. Getting an orbital beacon would let us talk with them and get more supplies. I just hope that it doesn't draw the attention of other hostile spacers or the Void themselves. And that's why the mech clusters are there. That was the mech cluster event. So I believe I have that set to every 45 days, one will appear. A mech cluster will appear on the map. And we're going to have to destroy it, otherwise it may get out of control. Or raiders happen to destroy it. And like I said, for the Void, hopefully they're either going to make an expansion every year, or they're going to come raid us, and that's going to force us to have to evacuate this place and abandon ship. That's sort of the plan for this. We're on the run, and oh, look at that! We already have a ship landing, a destroyer from the self-reliant war management mech hive X-ray. I have no idea why they're naming for that. So we'll have you equip the bronze hat. Actually, no, you equip the bronze hat. You equip the gladius. You equip that, and then afterwards pick up half of the bullets. Go. Oh. Then equip this. You equip this. And let's see here. Then afterwards pick up 3 of that. You pick up these. What the? For some reason we have a heavy lass rifle. Huh, that actually was not supposed to be here. I don't want to enable developer mode because, well, I have room achievements on. And this is a way that, in case you guys think, hey, I might be cheating or I'm calling you out, look at this. Achievement. Enter development mode. We're not ever unlocking that. So, that's a way that you guys know that I'm being fair about this. Okay, so come equip that. You now pick up this. May as well pick this one up. And you go, after you're done, you pick this up. Alright. Now you pick up the rest of your medicine. And we'll see what wow, okay. Ooh, this is going to offer for a nice startup area here. I did want to get that out of the way, but for the most part, I am going to be recording this. I'm going to be recording it in bouts of, I think, an hour to an hour and a half, and then editing down the footage that we got. For that, and make half-hour episodes out of it. Might go longer if nothing interesting happens. So we have some copper there, tin, make bronze. I'm kind of hoping there's a bit of iron. I don't think there is. There's our ancient danger. An ore. More tin ore, copper. Yeah, so it looks like we don't start with any iron. That's okay though. I can make do with bronze for the time being, and there's a bit of coal. Or sorry, I can make do with what we started with. I'll just have to be very careful. So, yeah, I'm going to continue recording onward from here to keep the series started, and then before, well, you guys will see sort of a mod list video, or me going over the mod list, as well as what the a big theme of the big themes of this story is going to be. So, all right, I will pass it over to myself at the mod page. So, yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the mod screen. So, the general idea for this, the theme of this series is lots and lot. Just think a lot of war crimes and expanded upon in those, with the goal of trying to beat the void. Now, actually, I guess a better way to sum it up is we're trying to beat the void faction, and most of our colonists are willing to do anything, anything that it takes to beat the void. Which means if it delves into the realm of war crimes, then so be it. They are willing to do that just to have their revenge. The end game for us, obviously, is beating the void. However, the other end game in goal we're going to have is we are going to be escaping the planet traditionally, as tradition has been, and that's building a ship and leaving with as many colonists as we can. Now, I do have one colonist in mind that is going to I'm not exclusively talking about our current roster, but as we expand upon it, there is one colonist that I do have in the back of my mind that I know for a fact will be leaving, and it's to help set up a story for another planet. And if say we get another one that happens to join in, fills out its character arc as well, it may also be leaving as well. It all depends on what we have at the very end. But I know there are going to be a couple of our characters that are going to have sort of immunity, if you will. Meaning that there might be a couple times where I do reload and keep the story going, but this is all to tell. We're doing this to tell a story here. Obviously, yeah, it is fun just to see, oh no, everybody's dying. Everybody's going to die. But no, I am trying to tell this. I am trying to tell the story of essentially a revenge story. And where throughout it, lots of trials, lots of tribute, lots of death, and a lot of war crimes. So, yeah, just as a heads up, there are some characters that do have immunity, and some of those characters we are currently not even in our roster. Like, not every character that we currently have right now has immunity. I know one of them maybe has it. I might have like death immunity applying to them, but everybody else is their fates are up for grabs after a certain point, though. Obviously, I'm not going to let them die within the first 10 minutes of this. Otherwise, that wouldn't be really a good story for what I have set up. But at some point, most of our characters are going to be dying. Not going to say when, but I will say that most will be dying. Anyways, in terms of mods, it's kind of a... We have the standard set up here with the exception of STRS. Some people might not play with that. We are, because we're going to be going out, setting up raiding people, setting up temporary outposts so that we could go raid like a certain portion of the world and send the ships back filled with the resources. We have the vanilla expanded series, every single mod in that series, and whenever a new one of them gets uploaded, we're going to be adding it into the game. In terms of we have hold on, I gotta give myself a second to think. So, another, and I would love to think of this as an honorary vanilla expand because it really is that at the end of the day. It makes it a bit harder, but it's ultimately pretty balanced, and that's, well, as you're seeing here, expanded materials. Giving us the ability to, uh, well, have more metals in the game. We now have copper, we have lead, we've got tin, and all those metals are going to be required in order to advance up the tech tree a bit more. It's going to be a bit harder to do that, and we're going to need specific materials to build certain buildings, but I think it's going to be all worth it in the end. It's actually one that I might add to the other series as well. I only have a couple of biomes mods, so not really a whole lot to talk about there. We have Pawn Morpher, again making a return because, well, it's going to fit down the mad scientist aspect of our colony. I have Z levels, that's another pretty noteworthy mod, so that I can have my prison area on top, essentially on the ground floor, and underneath that we're going to have our laboratory and possibly maybe, I guess, slave production, slave worker. If I could do that, I'm not sure. I might need a mod for that, but regardless, this is where all of our experiments on people is going to be taking place. We're going to be, well, going to be experimenting on folks, trying to create the perfect life form with everything that we have access to. It's also where our genetic rim facility is going to be, so we can create the animal monstrosities that we all know and love. For factions, I got, like I said, every vanilla expanded faction is here. The other two, insectoid and mechanoids, are close to the bottom because they added new pawns, and the guide that I was following for modding suggests that anything that adds in pawns or new colonist types, that includes animals, are added further at the bottom. Even if they add in any like new faction or new apparel, new clothes, new weapons, etc., etc., if they add in a new animal or pawn type, it goes all the way to the bottom, with the exception of core mods, which is why Elder's faction is up here, because this is, well, more or less seen as a core mod, as it's required by something else, by another mod later on down. What's another good example? Vanilla weapons. This would be seen as a core mod for the entire vanilla weapon series, because it changes a lot of. It does have a lot more changes than just these, so that's why this is up here. Let's see here. Of course, we have the void in here. We're going to need that, as it's pretty important. Then our list of bionics, lots of them. We have questionable ethics, kind of the lighter end of our mad scientist arc. And for androids, we have android tiers, and I think I have mecha droids. Mecha droids should be somewhere around here, or somewhere in this list. But that's kind of to go along the lines of, enslavement. I might even add what the heck in here later on, so that we could start to enslave the mechanoids. Oh, I think that'll be a much later addition into the game. I'm thinking maybe a couple years after, a few years after the starting point. Alright, scrolling down, more medical mods, a couple of some miscellaneous ones, nothing really interesting. I added in this mod here, the quest reward rebalance, so that we could see some of the more late game items when we're, well, at the late game and trying to get quests. Because, well, we didn't see a whole lot of that last time. And while I would not have classified us as late game, I definitely would say that we are definitely in the mid game with our Storyteller Roulette series. So this is so that we could get, more mid-tier items in the mid-tier. We did kind of see that a little bit, but this just balances it out a bit more. A lot of stuff from Fluffy, lots of tabs, just general UI expanding, prisoner harvest, because obviously we're going to be harvesting for prisoners. And our colonists shouldn't really feel anything from it. And I didn't want to give, most of our colonists the psychopath character or trait, as it wouldn't really make sense for a band of people who just escaped from a facility, and they've been somewhat bonding together as they continue to travel through through the through the rim. Psychopaths can't have good social interactions with people, with other people. So it wouldn't make sense for that, but Psychopath does cancel out the mood debuff that is given out from Prisoner Harvest, so now I'm going to just have this yeah, I've spent way too long explaining that. Let's see, more of an expanded stuff. Lots of that. We also have the return of Parry Persistence. I think this... I may have passed it already, but... Or did I? Let's see. Hot... No, I don't. I was debating on putting in Hot Seat here to change the AI from time to time, but I think at the end I decided not to do that because, well, I would prefer to do that on my own. I have an idea on when I want new storytellers taking over. And I do go back and I know I go back and forth a bit on this stuff, but yeah. Let's see. Something that we have from last time that they don't have in the current series is, or I guess the other new series is tech rating, and that's so that we can get a bunch of new technology as some interesting tech stuff by going out and raiding other people. Going to heavily encourage that. We have mecha droids here for, well, more enslavement purposes to capture that side. We have rim security to be able to guard everything. I'm trying out this new insectoidy mod called Horrors, and I haven't really seen a whole lot. I haven't tested it out a whole lot, but I'm hoping that this ends up being a good alternative to some of the base game insect actions, or not really sure I'm saying there. Anyways, I added it in. It's another interesting faction that we may or may not encounter. We'd have to see. Maybe the void sucks it all up. Maybe they don't. More mechanoids added in. Yeah, I think I actually am going to put what the hack in. Alright, so include what the hack in this as well, since I'm going to add it in. This was an interesting mod that I saw. It's Xenohumans. And it's essentially to make a couple different more humanoid more humanoid-esque people with obviously some different traits. I didn't want to add in some of the other ones that adds in different types of factions and races out there. I wanted something that was kind of more still along the lines of humans, but maybe a bit different. So Thrombonians is one that I can think of off the top of my head. Didn't really want to add that in because that was more not really what I had in mind for this series. I might add in one of those races in the future to symbolize that, hey, people are coming in. They're coming to land on this Rimworld. And then for animal, obviously we have to have these guys in here, only for the sole reason to power up genetic Rim, so that we have more options in what monsters to create from it, more vanilla expanded animals, combat extended. So this is primarily for the warring side of the war crimes, and of course all the weapons that come with it too that are strictly banned. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of testing with this one, had some practice with it, and I'm very excited to actually put my knowledge to work. Hopefully we hope this doesn't end up killing us in the very end. And of course, as I've seen with a couple of videos that I've watched out there, it does work pretty well when you're this can go in your favor if you're going up against people of the void. So yeah, this is going to be a somewhat of a decent counter to them if they do decide to turn up at our base. And then of course you got all the sorts of patches down here, and lastly at the very bottom, modders deserve credit too, because every single modder here is amazing. They created these mods that we're allowed to play with, and in the credit sequence, they definitely should be getting the credit that they're due. I can't gush on enough on how much I love a bunch of these mods. For instance, the entire Vanilla Expanded series. Things like Genetic Rim and all the animals that it adds in. I know if we go ahead and delete that. Android Tears is another one. Take any one of these mods that I have here. I enjoy I've played with them before and I really enjoy them all. And I definitely think that they deserve credit. So if you aren't running this mod where modders deserve credit too in your series, then what are you doing? Put this mod in. I'm serious, put this mod in. Otherwise, you will be feeling the wrath of our war crime heavy void killing faction. So yeah, anyways, that's all the mods. I'm thinking later on I will post a collection for this on Steam, so if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments and I'll get to work on that I'll try to get to that done faster than what I currently plan on doing it at. But if nothing else, thank you everybody for watching this first video. Sorry that it's taking almost an hour to get for all this explanation, etc., etc. But I do really feel like it is important to set the story for this. So to sum this series up, we are going to... So as a bit of a last minute summary to kind of sum everything up that I've said in this past hour-ish video, is we're a band of people, we're a group of people who had just finished escaping the void. We're outcasts of the void. One of us is a scientist, the other one of us is a former scientist, the other three were just happen to be prisoners, and everybody wants to take their revenge out on the void, each of them going in their own different ways. One kind of wanting to go the more peaceful-esque way and trying to take him out, like obviously still going to war with them, but you know, with morals. Another one, similar boat, except anything that it takes to win, even if it means chemical warfare. Another one, the mad scientist wanting to continue the research on the perfect life in order to bring to battle against the void, and the last one trying to enslave a bunch of people to go against the void. Again, like I said, they each have their own different approach, but at the very end they have a common goal of taking out the void. It's really what binds this group together. And throughout the story, new characters are going to be added in, some of them with kind of similar views to each of our different characters. So for instance, we might have another colonist coming in that says, you know what, I'd like the idea of enslaving others. I'm going to want to spend more time around the AU android. Whereas some others might come in with a completely different aspect. Such as, I know I have plans for one of them to come in, for a colonist to come in and go, you know what, I want to turn everybody on the planet into animals and command an entire pack of them, and have an entire pack of these animalized humans at my mercy. And I think that would make for an interesting character, somebody who's so obsessed with mutating people to the point where their goal is to make everybody else outside their own friends animals to take into the fight. You know, as to make people suffer, having the people that he hates the most inside the body of maybe a rabbit or a deer, and people who he thinks he can control the best inside the body of a massive Thrumbo, or Galvatros in some cases. Oh, that would be interesting. And I have a couple more of these character concepts that I'd like to implement. It's just I'm not going to have them in just yet. We obviously need to have people join in, get used and build up to that. So you guys will know when a character comes in that I have that immediately strikes out as it's going to fit X character arc. So that's the idea. And the end game, kill the void and eventually escape the planet. So that's my idea. That's my plan. And that'll do for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you everybody for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you really enjoyed. Don't forget to share this video or any of my other videos to anybody who you think will enjoy my content. I now have to go work on creating episode 1 of the series, which might not be out today. It is going to take a bit longer to edit than I initially thought, since I have, well, a couple hours of footage to go through. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take it easy.